Hello one and all, and welcome back to more Let's Play Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations. I am the Max of Few Trades. In the last part, we literally exorcised a demon in the courthouse. It was pretty freaking awesome. But, as awesome as it was, we still kind of need to answer the question of who actually did the stabbing of Misty Faye. We don't we never actually answered that question, so we can't really call the whole trial off at this point. The worst news is, I don't actually know who it was that did it. Usually by this point, I would have a pretty good idea, but right here and right now, I can't say I actually know. Because from all the facts that we do know, it couldn't be any of the people that we know. So, I don't know what the heck's going on. Now then, before we proceed any further, I'm going to announce the results of the test we had performed earlier. Tests? Yes, tests on the bloody dagger that was found stuck in the pine tree. That's not pine tree. Oh, yeah, that. I totally forgot about it. I mean, that's fair. You did kind of have to exorcise the ghost of your ex-girlfriend into, you know, the great beyond. It was pretty awesome. We were all very distracted. That's the weapon that Maya Fey used when she fought with the victim. So you say. But I don't think she did. So what are the results? Was it the victim's blood, or? Due to time constraints, a full test wasn't possible. However, there's one thing we can say with certainty. The blood that was on this dagger was not the victim's blood. Oh, okay. That is all. Now then, let's restart this trial. Okay. We don't know whose blood it is, but it wasn't hers. So that means somebody else got attacked in some capacity. Enough to draw enough blood to get it all up on the knife. That makes sense. So it wasn't Misty's blood on the dagger. Then whose was it? That is probably something we're going to have to figure out. I'm sure both the defense and the prosecution know this, but this trial is rapidly coming to a close. Both sides will need to show some firm evidence with their claims. I understand, Your Honor. From what I've heard, the witness is dangerously weak, physically speaking. So let's finish this quickly. Yeah, well, to be fair, you're also the one forcing her to do this. We realistically could have waited till tomorrow. Last I heard, these trials can go on for 3 days max. But regardless, agreed. If we've got to do it here, and we've got to do it now. Very well, please bring in the last witness. Maya, are you okay? Oh, they gave her a change of clothes. That's nice. Witness, please tell us your name and profession. Maya Fey. My profession is, I'm the assistant manager in Wright and Co-Law offices. Maya. According to the magazine I have here, you're a spirit medium with the Kurain channeling technique. I'm frightened. The Fey clan, I don't want any more to do with it. Understandable. If I'm being completely honest, I get it. Girl, I get it. Seriously, I'm amazed you were willing to stick with it to the extent that you had up to this point, but after this? I mean, I'm sure you'll end up going back to it and everything, but still, even if it's a momentary lapse in weakness and stuff, I get it. She's really hurting. She's trying to be strong, but she is hurting. Oh, Maya. The pain the Fey bloodline causes must be unbearable. Very well. Now then, Miss Fey, when the event occurred, you were in the garden of the Inner Temple, and you witnessed the moment of Miss Elise Dunim's murder. Is this correct? I didn't see anything. Well, okay, never mind. He's yelling. Straighten up this instant, young lady. You think just because you're traumatized and extraordinarily emotionally and physically weak from everything you've experienced up to this point gives you any excuse to be kind of stuttery? I'm a grade A asshole and don't give a damn. Pick your head up and speak clearly. There's always time for crying later. But I don't care. Your mother was killed right in front of your eyes. Wow, yeah, that is something that happened. Maybe she's not feeling 100% right now. It's almost like she learned that this happened moments ago. There's nothing you can do to change that fact. Regardless, have some tact. But there's something you can do. You can finish this. You've been watching the whole thing, right? You've seen the witnesses come out, and you've seen us squeeze the truth out of them. Now it's your turn. Let's hear your testimony. on the night of the crime. What exactly did you see happen? Witness, if you please. Yes, Your Honor. Sigh. Poor Maya. I mean, I hate the way he's saying it, but I mean, there's a million ways he could have phrased that better. Like, I cannot stress that enough. He could have said that in ways that weren't as unbelievably jerkish. But ultimately, at the core of it, his point does stand. It is good to just get this over and done with. I was passing through the garden on the way to the spare prep room when it happened. Suddenly, someone struck me over the head. I stumbled and ended up against the stone lantern. I think I screamed, "Help me." You think you screamed. Then something warm splashed over me. I don't know what that was. That's when I lost consciousness. Maybe blood? So you were struck on the head. And I suppose it must have been the staff. Maya! The person who hit you! It was Dahlia Hawthorne, wasn't it? I'm sorry, Nick. I couldn't see. I don't know who it was. Maya, think hard. This is really important. Sorry, Nick, but I really couldn't. Can't say it was an especially good night for young ladies to be walking around alone. It's like that has no bearing on anything. Please stop talking, Godot. It seems that it will be hard to determine the criminal through testimony alone. Very well then, Mr. Wright. Please begin your cross-examination. Maya, hang in there. She doesn't look well at all. Is this a situation where I shouldn't press too much or too hard? I mean, it's Maya. Ultimately, I feel like she'll do her best to help, you know, Phoenix. Okay. I'm curious about a couple things. Let's see what we can do here. Who did it? Who hit you? Well, I didn't see who it was. It was hit from behind. You didn't see the person? But after that, your attacker was in front of you. And how could you not see who it was? Oh. Let me think for a sec. I'm sorry, but I just can't remember. Maya's really having a hard time. What should I do? I don't know if this is actually super necessary. Considering the conditions at the crime scene. I mean, it was dark, I get it. So it's not surprising she didn't see her attacker. I was just really hoping that she could. Ha! So it looks like even you've got some compassion. I have infinitely more compassion in the tiniest microbe on my pinky finger than you do in your entire body. So maybe shut up. Judging by the testimony thus far, the identity of the attacker was most likely the spirit that was controlled by at least a name, Dahlia Hawthorne. It would be nice to get a direct confirmation from her specifically, but conjecture's good enough here. Very well, continue with the testimony. What happened after you got bonked on the head? It ended up against the stone lantern. Let's talk about it. What happened afterwards? My attacker was in front of me, blocking off my escape. I think. You think? After getting hit like that, I was in a state of panic. There were only two things rolling around in my mind at the time. Well now, this is beginning to get interesting, as opposed to the not interestingness of this case beforehand, with the ghosts and the murder. So, what are the two things rolling around in your mind? My name is Maya Fey. 1 + 1 = 2. What? You see, for some crazy reason I was afraid I was gonna lose my memory. I know it's odd considering my life was in danger, but that's how it was. When you're in a life-threatening situation, your brain just does what your brain does. I'm not gonna judge you. And that's not odd at all. Your actions are understandable given the circumstances. So, what did you do then? All right, so, this is actually something I'm interested in. You think you screamed, but you're not sure. Listen, I was a complete wreck. It was dark and I couldn't see my attacker. Was it a man, a woman, an adult, a child? I had no idea. I was scared out of my wits. Believe me, my dear, I'm certain I would have soiled my ropes. Well, that's oversharing a little there, Judge, but at the very least, you can't say the judge is not a compassionate man. He's very empathetic. I thought this person might attack me, anyway, I'm pretty sure I screamed. I thought that it was my last hope. Wow, sounds like poor little Maya really was out of her mind. But I wonder what she meant by last hope. What do I do? Do I press her for more details? Well, what did she scream? Actually, I am kind of curious about that. Slam jam! Wait a minute, Maya. What's this my last hope stuff? Huh? What? What do you mean by your last hope? What? No, no. Dang it, Maya. That's what you said. You said my last hope. Huh? What? I said what? Come on, Maya, please. Look, you were facing an attacker that you couldn't see and you screamed, right? You screamed, "Help me!" Or at least something to that effect. Yeah. But you testified that you screamed because you thought it was your last hope. What exactly was that? Oh, well, you know, that's like, what do you call it when that happens? Maya's not doing so well up there. Ordinarily, I'd be a bit more cross, but she is kind of jumbled up. I'll give her more slack than I even usually would. Oh yeah, oh, that's right. I remember now. I was facing my attacker, but that's not who I was screaming at. All right then, so the mythical third party is becoming slightly more apparent. What did you just say? Yeah, that's right. It was the person behind my attacker that I was yelling at. That's who I was screaming to for help. Ah! Did you suddenly remember? What is it now? I messed up. I didn't mean to let that slip out. Huh? What are you talking about? Witness, are you absolutely sure of what you're saying? Behind the attacker, there was another person? There would had to have been. Oh, right. People think Maya could have still probably killed in self-defense. Well, we know that was never a thing. I meant to keep that part a secret. What have I done? Ha! It takes a ton of pressure to make a diamond. That's what I always say. That is the first time you've said that. A ton of pressure? You're in a court of law here. You can't make things up or try to hide things in this chamber. I mean, granted, you can attempt. It won't always work, but you can try. Witness, the information you just presented is vital to the case. I want you to add it to your testimony. I could see a man behind my attacker by the light of the stone lantern. Hang on, hold it, whoa! A man? Who is this man? Well, you see, I couldn't see. You couldn't see? She's used this excuse twice now. Well, you know, lantern light isn't very bright. Lantern light, did you say? But the lantern wasn't even lit. There's a great big stone lantern in the garden. They always light it when an acolyte is there for training. Yeah, but no. Hey, you know what they say, under the lantern, darkness reigns. I've never heard that before in my life, but it sounds poetic enough to be a thing I've simply never heard of in casual conversation. So I'll give you credit there. So I could see the person that was further away, but not my attacker, who was closer. Plus, there weren't any other light sources in the garden at the time. There were no light sources. How did you know it was a man? Hang on, no, hang on. The stone lantern itself was not lit the night of the crime. Sorry, Maya. Objection! So there was a man standing behind your attacker. Yeah. That man, he's the killer. He stabbed her from behind. He's the one who killed Elise Donim, otherwise known as Misty Faye, your mother. Sorry for having to bring that little aspect up, but there you go. The killer. Maya, you know who killed your mother, don't you? And yet for some reason you don't want to tell me? Also, a man? That doesn't even make any sense. Wow, I just realized, okay. First and foremost, I want to point out that I knew going in that there weren't that many men available as options in this, but wow, there are a lot of women in Ace Attorney. But if it was a man, and it's somebody that I already have in here that I need to accuse, none of these make any sense. It's not Edgeworth, he wasn't even in the country. It couldn't have been Gumshoe, he was not there. It couldn't have been couldn't have been Godot. He was also nowhere to be there. And I just kind of inherently refuse to believe it could have been Larry, because that's weird. So who the hell was it? To be frank, Your Honor, I think she's in shock and quite confused. That's why she hasn't noticed the huge problem with her testimony. Huh? What do you mean? What problem? Maya, on the night of the crime, the stone lantern was out of commission. Huh? What? Mm-hmm. It's true. There was no light anywhere in the garden that night. No! I'm afraid that is very much the truth. I don't know why you're trying to keep this from me. This is all very strange. Order! Order in the court! Mr. Godot, explain this. Not after I'm done consuming. Oh, wait, not yet. Add the pureness of milk to the perfect clear darkness of coffee. Stir. That is the state of the witness's mind right now. A cup of cafe. Oh, cafe a la. Don't give me all your coffee lingo. I ain't got time for that. Cafe au lait? Is that even legal? Consume. Everything is legal if you don't get caught. I don't know why I said that. Mr. Trite's words are the milk and you are the spoon, Your Honor. I'm a spoon? I'm no spoony bard, I'll have you know. That's an interesting reference. You must have noticed it too, Trite. This witness's mental state is highly unstable right now. It's not hard to understand why she would make a little mistake like that. This is kind of more than a little mistake. Sorry, but that's not gonna cut it. What did you say? Well, let me explain you a thing. If there truly was no light in the garden, then there's a fatal contradiction in the witness's last bit of testimony. She knew it was a man, despite not being able to see? How's that even possible? Okay, so I just suddenly got hit with a thought. Let's just continue a bit more before I blurt out what I just thought, because it doesn't make any sense to me. May I? Recall the witness's statement about her attacker. She said that she didn't know if it was a man or a woman, an adult or a child. And yet, the witness could describe a person that was standing behind her attacker, and she quite clearly described him as a man. In other words, that would have to mean that Maya actually saw our mystery person, despite it being so dark that she couldn't see the face of her own attacker. No! See, now I'm trying to, I was suddenly given the thought of how exactly would she have been able to see her attacker, not see her attacker, while also seeing the person that was attacking her attacker, and well enough to know that they were a man, but again, not having any idea about who was actually attacking her specifically. So what went through my brain was, how would it be possible for her to be able to see anybody in any circumstances? And that would be if the person that ultimately killed Misty Faye had a light source. And I only know of one person who has a light source at all times. I'm getting completely jumbled because this is actually very strange and odd to me, because I'm just gonna stop beating around the bush. All evidence is pointing to Godot. And I don't know why he would do that or why he was even there. That's what I'm confused by. Order, order, order. What in the world does this all mean, Mr. Wright? Are you saying Miss Faye saw the real killer under pitch black conditions? Objection. Trite, do you have any idea what you're proposing? I think I do. How could she have seen in the dark? There was no other light source at the scene. Yeah, except in one of the previous cases when the lights went out after Furio Tigre screamed and then the lights cut out. The only thing that could be seen was the giant honking glow from your visor. And I think that scene might have been in this game to foreshadow this. Objection. There are some things that you can only see in the dark, Mr. Godot. Maya, you did see who the killer was in the dark. And now, you're trying to cover for him. And I don't know why, but I'm sure I'll figure that out as we go along. I'm very interested to learn. Okay, wait, no, hang on a second. I do think I can think of a reason why Godot would do what he did. Assuming it is him. At this point, it has to be. I can't think of anyone else it could be. So assuming that it is him. Well, then again, I suppose it's not impossible. Okay, my brain is trying to tell me, because they made a big brouhaha about this having been opened once before, these orders, this plan, which means somebody read it other than Pearl, which means somebody else would be aware of everything that was going to go on before it went on. And while Godot has literally no means or desire to kill Misty Faye, I imagine he'd have a lot of reasons to want to harm Dahlia. Because of, you know, obviously all the things. But even then, that doesn't really make much sense because, I mean, even if that were the case, he wouldn't really be killing Dahlia. He would be killing somebody summoning her spirit, which would just be killing someone else completely unrelated. So I don't know how much water that idea actually holds. Oh, didn't mean to hit that, sorry. Okay. I'm theorizing when I could just be progressing. Cover, for the man that killed her mother? Yeah, see, that's the crazy part. There's only one conclusion I can draw from this. You know who this man is. Please, Nick. I don't know anything. Please, I'm begging you. Heh. You talk a good game, Trite, but let's see if you can walk the walk. It was pitch black, so what could the witness see? I'm calling your bluff. No, Nick, don't. Please, stop. I'm gonna need an explanation as to why you're covering for him. Maya's dead set on protecting this guy. The man who murdered Maya's long-lost mother. What possible reason could you have? But I can't let him get away with it. I'm a lawyer, an officer of the court. I'm here to find the truth. Everything is gonna be found out. All right, Mr. Wright, time to show us what you've got. Who was this person that you say Miss Faye saw in the darkness? There's literally only one person it could feasibly be. Unless, apparently, unless Gumshoe has a fluorescent coat that we've never seen before. Because it was pitch black, Miss Faye was able to recognize the killer easily. I'm sure the court would like to see for itself how this is possible, yes? What? But how do you propose to show us something like that? It's easy. We just need to recreate the conditions of that night. Conditions? Your Honor, the defense officially requests that all the lights in this courtroom be turned off. Wow, they just straight up did it immediately. Appreciated. What? This is... But it can't be. Huh. I feel like she'd be able to tell who it was if that was going on. That was a nice bit of deduction. Trite. Okay, so this case has taken a turn into a path I was on previously unprepared for. Well, everyone, this is the man Maya saw on the night of the murder. The whys and hows are still kind of up in the air, but we're making progress. Order, order, order. Prosecutor Godot, what is the meaning of this? Haha, do I look like I care? Surely you must be shocked to hear yourself accused of such a thing. Why aren't you denying it? Ha! Your Honor, you're asking the wrong person. But what do you mean by that? If you've got a question, ask the witness. That's one of my rules. Well, Maya, how about it? What you saw that night? Was it 3 glowing red lights? She, for some reason, is protecting him. As big of a scumbag as I personally find him, I doubt he's, like, threatening her. And even if she was being threatened, the past game proves that Maya wouldn't care about that sort of thing, and regardless of her life, ultimately want justice to go through. So, that doesn't make any sense. Well, witness, answer the question. You're wrong. I never saw that. Maya, I thought the person that stabbed my mother was a man, for a totally different reason. What? I'm just gonna have to keep punching holes through testimonies until it works. Stop your chattering, Your Honor. Chattering? If it's worth asking, ask the witness. That's one of my rules. All right. Well then, let's continue with the testimony. Please tell us how you knew the killer was a man. Yes, Your Honor. I didn't realize it until after I woke up, but... Come on, Maya, come on. Let's talk, let's talk. When I came to, I was just lying there on the training hall floor. So then if it was Godot, my best guess would be that he attempted to protect Maya, and then he moved her, no matter what, he would have had to have moved her over to the training hall. The question I don't understand is what he was even doing there in the first place. Even if my completely, if my completely bonkers theory of him knowing about all of this beforehand, then why would he stick around? Why wouldn't he just inform people of the plan and prevent it from happening in the first place? So this entire motive is confusing to me. When I came to, I was lying in the training hall. By the time I got back to the garden, the place had totally changed. The torches were lit and the body was gone. And all the snow around the stone lantern had been carefully cleaned up too. That was unusual. Since the person did all that work alone, I just assumed it was a man. A woman could have easily done those things too. So it was after the crime took place that the witness came to think the killer was a man. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, Your Honor, No need to apologize. It's as Mr. Godot said, you're utterly exhausted. It's only natural that you would be a little confused. Also, if you consider the situation you described, it doesn't seem too much of a stretch to assume the culprit was a man. I guess. But obviously there's more to it. Mr. Wright, proceed with your cross-examination. Okay. Well, I don't have any glaring contradictions I can work with here. We're lying there by the time it totally changed. The torches were lit and the body was gone. All right, let's talk about it. The torches were lit? Yes, that's how I noticed that the whole scene had changed. I'm gonna say it was the killer who lit the torches. I mean, who else could it be? The killer probably lit them since it'd be impossible to do any cover-up work in the dark. However, if that's true, there's one thing that still bothers me. Why did the killer go to the effort of moving the body? That's true. It's hard to see how that would be any advantage to the killer. The only one who would have gained anything from that would be the only person that was at the inner temple, Maya. Very well. Let me hear more about the condition of the crime scene. I want to hear about this snow. So you're saying the killer cleaned up the snow? It did look really odd. The snow was removed in an unnatural-looking rectangular shape around the lantern. There were a lot of shovels around the inner temple, but they're all really heavy. Way too heavy for me to use. How heavy of a shovel does it need to be? Was it like a snow shovel? I suppose. An odd fellow indeed, this killer. Why on earth would anyone want to take snow away? Well, there's one thing I can think of. Didn't you say that a lot of the victim's blood sprayed onto the snow? Yeah. The area I collapsed in ended up being splattered. In other words, the killer's purpose was to hide the bloody snow. Oh, I get it. I get it. Okay. So, assuming we're rolling with the whole Godot did this theory. He must be aware that he can't see the color red, as has been previously established so much up to this point. So, he must have assumed, well, there's obviously got to be blood somewhere around here in this snow. I'll just huck as much of the stuff out as I possibly can. But at the same time, he would have had no idea that there was anything written on the lantern. Hence why that would have stayed behind, and it would explain why he was so weirded out and confused about learning that there was a message written on it. It wasn't just because it was something he didn't know, it was because it was something he missed. I think that's the most reasonable explanation. Perhaps. However, there's something that's bothering me. If the killer just wanted to hide the snow with blood on it, there was no need to remove that amount, unless he didn't know where it was, and he just got rid of as much of it as he could, and just hoped, well, hopefully that was all of it. That's true. He could have scooped up just the snow that was stained with blood. If anything, this points directly to Godot. It looks like there are some mysteries behind this issue. Sorry, I had dry mouth. But I think this will help explain them. Since the person did all that work, I just assumed it was a man. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to press, like, everything here. I'm clearly missing information. So you're saying that you never saw the killer, right? Yes. But earlier, you very clearly stated that you saw a man behind your attacker. Nick, I'm sorry. The killer certainly went through a lot of trouble. Moving the body by pendulum, manipulating the crime scene. But for what purpose? Why do all that? Maybe Maya knows more than she's letting on. Yeah, then that's probably why I need to press more stuff. Okay, hang on. Let's work our way backwards. Naturally, the killer must have done it, right? Yeah, I think so. But why would the killer tamper with the crime scene like that? There must have been something that the killer desperately wanted to hide. Oh, hello. The truth is, when I saw the crime scene, I felt something. An emotional thing or a physical thing? Because honestly, either of those would be really important and I'd like to know about them. You did? Yeah. I felt like the killer was hiding the evidence for me. For my sake. What? Hiding it for you? Everyone knew that I was the only one at the Inner Temple that night. If Sister Bikini had come back and looked at the garden, she may have thought that you had done it. No, she definitely would have thought so. It would have been the only logical conclusion. And you're saying that's why the killer cleaned up the crime scene to make it look like nothing had happened? Yeah, I'm sure of it. Oh, I guess I should have just pressed this from the start. That's what I get for jumping halfway through a testimony. Well, that's certainly an important piece of information. I want you to add that to your testimony. Yes, Your Honor. Okay. I think it was for my sake that the killer cleaned up the evidence of what had happened. All right, let's press this. They did it for your sake? Well, if the body and the blood hadn't been removed, I would have immediately been the prime suspect, right? Yes, I suppose that's true. Yeah, and if that happened, the body would have caused some other problems too. If a real identity had come out right then, it would have been terrible. Master of Kurain killed by own daughter. I don't think Maya would have been able to handle it. Yeah, that would have been something else. But still, it's rather difficult to fathom the killer's motives. What reason is there to go through that much trouble to protect you? Okay. Well, we just got this new piece of testimony, so I feel like if there's anything I'm going to have to do... I think I also know what it is, but it's a little weird to have to use the same thing constantly, but... this is the only thing I can think of. They went through all the effort to clean up the crime scene, but they didn't clean this. This is as big a contradiction as I can find. So... Alright, conviction. Just go for it. Objection! Music stopped. The body of Elise Donim was carried all the way to the Hazakura Temple's courtyard. Then, at the garden, the real scene of the crime, the snow that we suspect was covered in blood was scooped up and removed. It's reasonable to believe all this was done in an attempt to hide the true crime scene. However, there's still one matter that seems somewhat odd. Oh? And what would that be? I think you know. You must have figured it out by now, Mr. Godot. See? It's like, you know. You know. It's the message written in blood on the lantern. I'm not feeling super duper ultra aggressive towards the Godot right now, because if any of this is true, it would imply that he did it to protect Maya. So while still committing murder, ultimately he did it in the purposes of helping somebody. So I can't really hate him that much for that, despite the fact that I'd love a really concrete excuse to. I'm having a very conflicting amount of emotions right now. It was written very clearly on the white stone lantern. Maya. Yeah. If the killer was so motivated to protect Maya from suspicion, then why didn't they wipe the writing off the lantern? Ah, you're right. That was far more incriminating than anything else in the crime scene. Order, order, order in the court. But, Mr. Wright, isn't it a fact that the killer was trying to cover up the crime scene? Indeed. I shake my head no, but yes. But it doesn't make so much sense to move the body and remove the bloody snow, then not wipe off the most incriminating thing of all, the bloody writing. But, if that's the case, do you have an explanation for the killer's mysterious behavior? I very much do. Why would this killer move the body and remove all that snow, but then leave the bloody writing on the lantern? Because he can't see it! I don't know what the killer's plan was, but it's a fact that the killer left the writing on the lantern. There must be a reason for it. I've got a reason. Well then, Mr. Wright, let's hear your opinion. Why did the killer leave the message written in blood on the lantern? The killer wrote it to pin the crime on Maya. The killer didn't notice! Prosecutor Godot, earlier in this trial, you gave me some good advice. Once you eliminate the impossible... Again, actually, that's another thing. This entire trial was almost completely ended. He was the one who kept it going. So if he is the one who did everything, he could have gotten away scot-free, but chose to keep the trial going in the off chance. Even if he had absolutely no confidence in my ability to figure it out, it was still inviting the possibility of being found out. The only implication that could possibly have is if he wanted to be found out. Is this some kind of weird, gigantic, freakish test of ability for me? Is that what he's trying to do? Like, okay, sure, he did it to protect Maya. And then, I guess, maybe at one point he wanted to try and get away with it, but at the same time, maybe he felt like he shouldn't get away with it, and now he's giving me the chance to figure out that he did it so that he can't get away with it? Ugh. I need to spend less time thinking and more time just reading. Once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. Maybe you're not as dumb as I thought. Especially when he keeps insulting me like that. I'm getting conflicting messages on what exactly his character is. Is he a good person or an asshole? I guess he could be both. The real killer wanted to disguise the fact that a crime had occurred there. If that's the case, they wouldn't have left the bloody writing on the stone lantern on purpose. Therefore, it must mean they didn't notice it. But that doesn't make any sense. The torches were all lit and everything. There's no way any normal person would miss something as glaring as that. Well, it's a good thing he's literally the least normal person in the room. You're right. There is no way any normal person would. What? What are you trying to say, Mr. Wright? There's only one person involved in this incident who could have missed seeing the bloody writing altogether. And who would that be? Who's the person that could have failed? Come on, Judge. Mr. Godot, this is what you said yesterday. My eyesight is pretty messed up. Even with these huge goggles on my head, I still can't see everything. We firmly established that you can't see the color red, because I guess everything is tinted red. You can't see everything? Is that correct, Mr. Godot? This lantern was submitted as evidence today. I would like the court to think back to the moment it was first presented, and how he was the only person in the room freaking out over it. This lantern, or rather, the only one that wasn't. There's something written on it. Why, it's written in blood. Nonsense! This lantern, it's as clean as a whistle. So there's a thing. Mr. Godot, just admit it. There are certain colors you can't see, correct? You can't see red on a white background, can you? Whoa! Okay, hang on. That would actually explain it. Okay, so he specifically can't see the color red when on the color white. He can't see red, white. Red, white's the guy who killed Mia. He couldn't see or enact vengeance upon the man that killed Mia. Therefore, he's lashing out against the closest proximity target he possibly can, which is Phoenix. Boom. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but if it was, that's clever as hell. That's right. We went through this once before, during the poisoning case at Tres Bien. This is the apron the delightful Miss Bird was wearing at the time. Somehow spilled coffee on. But you didn't notice the big red stuff. Something bothering me, Godot. Why have you not explained the bloodstain? What bloodstain? Don't play games, you colossal fool. The big blood all over the dang thing. That's redunculous. No one told me anything about a bloodstain. It's a previously established pattern. You could see the coffee on the white apron, but you couldn't see the ketchup because it was red. It's strange. In a black and white photo, those letters would have appeared black to me. I wonder, why am I the only one that can't see them? So then, Mr. Godot, are you admitting it? Are you? Are you admitting that you can't see the red writing on the lantern? Consume! Hey, Gramps, didn't you know? That's the reason why I don't drink red tea. Okay. All right, well, that's admitting it in a weird way. I wasn't sure about it until now, but I just can't believe it. Prosecutor Godot is the murderer? But there's no going back now. I finally figured out the truth. I imagine he's probably still gonna fight back on it, but it's the only thing that makes any sense. Mr. Godot, the defense at this time formally accuses you. You are the murderer of Miss Elise Donem, also known as Miss Misty Fey. It's hard to believe this may be true. However, once again, Mr. Wright has brought up a disquieting fact about you. I deeply apologize. Consume. Just make sure you don't fill out the indictment in red ink, Gramps. Actually, I don't think that wouldn't filling it out in red ink make it non-legally binding? I think that's one of the weird technicalities. Anyway, come on. How does a little graffiti make me into the killer? Okay, yep, he's definitely gonna fight this. Besides, it's not like it's my name that's written there. I'm certain that the killer wasn't able to see the color red. This is rich. Do go on, Shrite. The answer is right there at the crime scene. And the snow. The snow? How so? Well, for example, why did the killer move all that snow? Your Honor, you said it yourself. If he wanted to hide the bloody snow, why not take out just that area? Yes, why didn't he take just that area? Ah! Could it be? Indeed. Yes, the killer couldn't see the red blood that had seeped into the snow. And so, he had to remove all of the snow. He couldn't be sure of where the blood had landed, so he removed the whole area. Isn't it more likely that the killer couldn't see the blood because it was dark? No? Not a chance. The torches were all lit. He would have been able to see just fine, unless he was an idiot and didn't light the torches. It seems that once again, this trial has taken an unexpected turn, to say the least. And here I thought demonic possession was going to be the extent of the craziness. Can you explain this, Mr. Godot? Maya? Oh boy. Wait, just a minute. Maya, what is it, witness? Mr. Godot isn't the killer. After all, he didn't even come to the Inner Temple until 2 days after the murder took place. He didn't show up until after that old bridge got fixed up. Objection. Why are you objecting, Maya? You can't testify to something like that. Why? What do you mean? I may not look at, After the murder happened, you didn't even exist. In the sense that you were currently possessed, yes, okay. Weird way to phrase it. She didn't, I'm afraid I don't follow. Are you senile, old man? We established this just a little while ago. After the murder, this witness was unconscious for a long time. Pretty much the bulk of the time, because she was channeling Dahlia Hawthorne. Oh, that's right. Please, Your Honor, let me add to my testimony. Nick, please listen to me. All it would do was give me more things to punch holes through. It has to be the truth, so there must be a way to find it. Do you plan to cover for Godot no matter what the cost? If that's the case, then I've got no choice. I guess she could feel indebted to him for saving her? But even then... Your Honor, let's hear her testimony. If it means we're going to hear the whole truth, I say we should not silence her. Nicely done, Trite. The more he talks, the more it feels like this really is meant to be some sort of weird test. Very well, we'll hear the testimony. Please tell us what happened at the Inner Temple after the murder. Yes, sir. After I woke up, I began channeling and my spirit left me, as it were. But little Pearlie was there at the Inner Temple too. And now, to establish the stuff that actually matters, Pearlie was also stuck on the Inner Temple side that night. The next morning, she looked around but couldn't find anyone. The next day, when the bridge was finally fixed, she was in the spare prep room. That's when Mr. Godot arrived at the Inner Temple for the first time. He found Pearlie first and cheered her right up. Well, that I find incredibly hard to believe. Who is this Pearlie? That's my little cousin, Pearl Fay. So when did you hear about this? Oh, just a while ago when I was in the medical office. I'm terribly sorry, but what you heard from someone is simply not admissible as testimony. That was something that came up before. What? Come on. Pearlie would never tell a lie. She's a way more honest person than I'll ever be. You've both lied to me in the past. Probably gonna lie in the future too. Real smart, Maya. You always know the best things to say when you're under oath. The prosecution has no objection. We believe the witness. But, Mr. Godot? Let's just move on to the cross-examination, if the defense has no objections. This is highly unusual, but, well, Mr. Wright, I've got nothing to complain about. Let's get this cross-examination started. Let's boogie. There's only one thing in this entire thing that I really want to press. So hold the phone. This I find weird. He cheered her up. Well, that's what Pearly said. She said he was a very nice older gentleman. Well, that's just a bold-faced lie. He's never been anything but condescending and, quite honestly, more than a little misogynistic. Thank you for looking after my cousin, Mr. Godot. And here I was thinking you were nothing more than a coffee addict. Well, everyone's got layers to them, at least when they're in a very well-written video game. Cut it out, you're making me blush. This guy is really beginning to get on my nerves, in more ways than one. Only just now? Man, Phoenix has the patience of a saint. Hell, some saints wouldn't be able to put up with all this. The truth is there aren't that many places to look on the Inner Temple side. The policemen were all busy going over the garden with fine-toothed combs. So I decided to carry out an investigation in my own way. Godot style. And I said Godot. Godot. I'm the same way. I like to hand down verdicts in my own way. Judge style. Maybe I should ask some questions. Phoenix style. Forget it. Cheering Pearls up. Okay, actually, yeah. Let's talk about that. You said that you conducted an investigation of your own. Maybe I can find a hole in here. Did you find anything? Looks like my investigation went about as well as yours, Trite. After all, I did miss the bloody writing on the lantern. Well, I didn't miss it, so speak for yourself, Goggles. Boom! That's a Banjo-Kazooie tiered insult. The only odd thing I discovered was the beauty in the training hall. Beauty? Misty Faye, naturally. Clad in her stunning Japanese garb, surrounded by the hue and aroma of Western tastes. Well, then there you go. There's the contradiction right there. He had to have been before, because if he showed up after, if he showed up after the murder took place, he would have saw this. If he saw the stuff before it, then that means he was there before it happened. Western tastes? Could he find a stranger way to describe gravy? No. Well, no, I'm still gonna, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it or underthinking, I don't know. Point is, I think that I'm doing on the right track here. So from there, you headed for the prep room. Wait a sec. What did Godot just say now? I think I just found his proverbial weak spot. There's only one thing of any importance here. Where was Godot when the murder was taking place? He must have already been at the Inner Temple when it happened. And otherwise, he couldn't have killed at least an imp. Okay, so where in this testimony? The next morning, next day, when the... Oh, that's when Mr. Godot arrived at the... Oh, okay, there we go. That's where we want it to be then. Bada bing, bada boom. Objection! Mr. Godot, the first time you crossed Dusky Bridge and went into the Inner Temple was long before the murder took place. What? Why do you say that? Because you just made one fatal slip-up. The hanging scroll in the training hall. I'm like a magnet for this stuff. Hanging scroll? But Mr. Godot is right. That scroll shows a picture of my mother. Naya, I know you know who it is, but here's something you didn't know. By the time the bridge had been repaired 2 days after the murder, the hanging scroll in the training hall looked like this. What's this wonderfully delicious smell? Okay, well, first of all, it's been at least a couple days. I can't imagine it still smelling any good. Secondly, that's just strange. The morning after the crime, someone covered it with gravy. Gravy? Why gravy, Nick? It's not really important, because gravy was much more than a condiment to the culprit. Well, I guess that's the best way to say it. Well, Mr. Godot, if you really hadn't seen the hanging scroll until after the murder, you wouldn't have had any way of knowing that it was Misty Faye. So what do you gotta say about that? Oh, another one. Hold it. Wait a minute, Nick. Yes? Take another look at the hanging scroll. Look at the top. There's a crest there. Ah, that. It's the mark of the master, correct? Exactly. So, if you know the meaning of the mark, then you could guess that it was a picture of Misty Faye on there. Yeah, but then why did he describe it so freakishly detailed? Oh, thank goodness, I don't even have to say it. True, but Mr. Godot described what was underneath like this. Clad in her stunning Japanese garb, surrounded by the hue and aroma of Western tastes. Oh. Yes, it's possible that he knew what the crest meant. However, he couldn't have known that she was wearing Japanese clothing. Mr. Godot, on the day of the murder, you were hiding at the Inner Temple long before the crime took place for reasons I admittedly don't have the slightest about yet. Well, he's still cool and confident about it. Can I ask you just one little thing, Trite? What is it? This whole theory of yours, it all rests on a certain assumption. That I knew beforehand that a crime was going to be committed. Yeah, see, that's sort of the thing. Even if I'm right and you're the one who somehow ended up reading the instructions before Pearl did, again, why go through all of this? Why not just prevent it from happening? That's right. Otherwise, there's no reason for him to sneak onto the crime scene. Of course Mr. Godot knew about the plan. Huh? What did you say? Is it really possible that another person knew of the plan? There most certainly is. Take that! This crime was actually planned over a year ago, which makes it even more weird that he would just, why go along with it and not just stop it? Morgan Fay authored the plan for her daughter's future, and these instructions were hidden somewhere in Fay Manor for a year. However, by the time Little Pearls found these instructions, they had already been unsealed. Unsealed? Yes, the killer had read these instructions long before Pearls ever found them. That's how he knew the crime was to take place at the Inner Temple. And you still insist this crafty killer is me? You bet I do. But you just said that the instructions were hidden. That's right. Mr. Godot couldn't have known where the instructions were hidden. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that, actually. But Phoenix does, I guess. If he really wanted to know, he had one great chance to find out. Yes, and when was that? During a visit. A visit? Morgan Fay told her daughter Pearl about where the instructions were hidden during one of her visits to the detention center. And, wait, Godot just... Well, first of all, Godot just happened to be there and hear this? Also, wait a second, a year ago? Was he even awake a year ago? That would be the only time for someone to have learned where they were hidden. Eavesdropping on a visit at the detention center? Yes, it could be arranged if you were someone with easy access in and out of there. Like, for example, a prosecutor such as Mr. Godot. I guess this is what we're going with. Fine, whatever, I'll take it. I don't fully understand how that works, but if it's what's the correct answer, I'll roll with it. Order in the court. Mr. Godot, you're under fire again. This murder could not have been carried out without prior knowledge. And you were the only one that could have acquired this information before the murder. Consume. Humans are afraid of the dark. And yet, at the same time, we're fascinated and bewitched by it. Maybe that's why humans drink the darkness that is coffee. Could you stop with the poising and the proper nonsense? Just say words. Sorry for always asking, but what does that mean? It means there's a reason for everything. According to your theory, the killer in this case eavesdropped on a conversation during a jail visit when he learned of a hidden plan for a crime. After discovering the plans, he hid in the Inner Temple and waited for the crime to occur. Then he ultimately took a person's life. And he did all of that just to protect this witness? Apparently. Hey, you're the one who said once you get rid of the impossible, whatever's left is the truth. If you're accusing me of this crime, I have to ask you, why would I do this? This girl is nothing but a stranger to me. Well, that's a lie. I mean, priorly, I thought you were being bizarrely dismissive of her existence, considering her connection to someone you care about. But I guess if that was partly an act for whatever reason, then fine, whatever. The point is, she ain't no stranger, and I've got no reason to go through that kind of trouble to protect her. Consume. I am what you see. I'm certainly not the type to rescue the damsel in distress. I actually believe that. but I feel like the circumstances were exceptionally different enough for it to be warranted. The killer's behavior is certainly extreme, for the lack of a better word, and it's not even the 90s. Even considering that the killer wanted to protect this witness's life, his behavior is still a little too unnatural. However, you had a good reason, didn't you, Mr. Godot? An unshakable reason that forced you to protect this witness at all costs. I knew it. You figured it out, haven't you, Nick? Maya, to be entirely frank, I figured it out a little while ago. Please try to keep up. Maya, I guess you were doing your best to cover for Godot. For the same reason, huh? I guess that connection was strong enough to warrant it. That's fair. That's fair. Okay, try it. I'm all ears. Let's hear it. The thing is, again, it was for the sake of protecting, but still, murder is murder. It's very simple. Maya Fey is a lot more than Maya Fey is a lot more than just a stranger to you. Sorry, that was my sort of quasical voice for Godot. What's this? There's one person who lies at the very center of this whole story. One person that ties you and Maya Fey together inextricably. Don't use words I don't know, that makes me feel dumb. Anyway, Mia Fey! It's time for this entire story to come out. There's a very good reason why Maya Fey's life is so precious to you. After all, she is Mia Fey's only sister. Mia Fey. You once worked alongside her. That was when you were a defense attorney. But wait a second here. Mr. Godot is a defense attorney? With your honor's piercing intellect, you must have figured it out by now. I guess. Slight underhanded jab there, but all right. The real name of this man who calls himself Godot, his real name is Diego Armando. I just realized the last two letters of his first and last name basically make his new name. Diego Armando. Godot. Godot. Bada-ba-doom. Bada-bow. Isn't that right? Consume. Last time someone called me by that name was over 6 years ago. And thus the sad music begins. Diego Armando. That name rings a bell. It should, Your Honor. All of this is related to a single case. Why you gotta keep reminding me? A case in which a convict named Terry Fowles killed himself. Mia Fey's first time in court. The tragic outcome left a deep wound in her heart. She knew that behind it all was a heartless, scheming demoness in disguise. I'm glad I'm not the only one calling her that. But in the end, Mia couldn't tear off that disguise. However, there was one man who reached out to help her. Diego Armando, a senior defense attorney at the office where Mia worked. Now we gotta remember this. Mia, you can't cry yet. Jesus, that was overkill. The only time a lawyer can cry is when it's all over. So, you gonna be honest about it? Oh, he is. I was moved by her. The way she put all her faith in her clients. That pure, sweet heart of hers. That's why I could never forgive Dahlia Hawthorne. Me and I thoroughly investigated that fake kidnapping incident. Then one fateful day, Dahlia wanted to meet with me. It had been 6 months since the trial. We met in the courthouse cafeteria. I just remembered. 6 years ago, right here in this courthouse, you were poisoned. Even I didn't see it coming. Ugh. Dahlia Hawthorne slipped some poison into my coffee. Some newspapers at the time called it a murder, but very little information about the case was released to the press. But you weren't dead at all, evidently. No official reports ever actually called it a murder. I was just in a deep, deep coma. I see. My body shut down, and my life became nothing but a long, deep sleep. That woman's poison did a real number on my central nervous system. I lost my sight, and all of my hair turned white due to the damage it caused. I guess that's as good as an explanation as any. Poison can have a wide range of effects. That's terrible. Apparently, it was a miracle that I ever regained consciousness. 5 years had passed since I drank that poison brew. Oh, then I guess the timing would work. Then, one morning, my eyes flew open from the smell of a doctor's cup of coffee. 5 years? You were asleep for 5 years? And the worst possible news was waiting for me. Yeah, I imagined that would actually be kind of horrible. Mia Fey was dead. From the very moment I opened my eyes, I had already lost everything I thought I had. The woman I loved had been murdered, and the woman I loathed had been sentenced to death. And you couldn't even catch the guy who did what he did to Mia. The woman you loathed? The woman who had spiked my scalding hot coffee. Dahlia Hawthorne. Consume. Good old Mia. She didn't let me down. She got her revenge before she checked out. In the end, there wasn't anyone waiting for me when I woke up. That's so sad. I mean, I will admit that is incredibly awful. Like, next level. I can't even pretend to say that that's not a pretty good justifying reason for a lot of messed up thoughts. For someone like me, for someone who had slept away their best days, there were only 2 reasons left to live. And it was for those 2 reasons that I decided to become a prosecutor. If I may ask, what were your 2 reasons to live? The first was you, Trite. Huh? Me? If I hadn't drank that stupid poison, Mia Fey never would have died. Much less the way she did. And we've got a new, even sadder song. Also, Diego, come on, man. Unless you plan to be glued to the hip to her 24/7, the odds of you being there to stop it were just as likely as it was for Phoenix. It sucks, and I'm sorry, but you can't say that you would have been able to prevent it. You don't know that. You were the only one who was there to protect her, but you let her die. It was all your fault. It was not! It wasn't like that. I wanted to see for myself what kind of man you really were. That's why you became a prosecutor? My other reason for living? She goes by the name of Mia Fey. Huh? You mean me? No, the other Mia Fey behind you. You were the only way I could make up for the sin of not saving Mia. 1 year ago, when the Kurain village incident was resolved, it was obvious that Morgan Fey was planning something. Whatever her evil plan was, I was determined to stop it. But you could have stopped it. Why'd you let it get so far? My role as a prosecutor put me in the perfect position to do something about her. That's how you overheard Pearl's visit with Morgan at the detention center. I knew that the time was drawing near. Since I knew the plan, I thought I could foil it. My goal was to outwit the plan, and I thought if I could do that, I could keep that girl from being caught up in it. You could have just warned people! That makes sense. I'm very confused. If Pearl had known that the actual purpose of the plan was to kill Maya, she never would have helped out. Then why didn't you just explain that to her? Or the authorities, or anybody? Finally, the day of the plan was drawing near. I contacted both of my accomplices. Accomplices? Iris of Hazakura Temple and Misty Fey. How did you find her? She was on the run. I especially needed the help of Iris. She was to take the fall in my backup plan in case we couldn't control Pearl Fey. But why not just tell everyone and prevent this entire thing from happening? The way you did it, there was obviously gonna be some level of bloodshed. How did you contact my... Also that... She'd been missing for almost 20 years. Officially, yes. What? What do you mean, officially? You've heard about it, haven't you? About the strong ties between the main family and the government? Well, now that you mention it, Bikini did say something to that effect. She said that the Master of Kurain had great authority. Even without her official position, Misty Fae still wielded great influence. The police had been keeping an eye on her movements all this time. That's how I was able to contact her. Again, because of my position as prosecutor. But dude, if you wanted to make it up to Maya... Again, okay, two things. One, you could have told everybody about this plan and prevented it from ever happening in the first place, preventing her from being traumatized. Secondly, you could have told Maya about Misty this entire time. They could have been reunited. She wouldn't have had to have died. Your plan to try and atone for things just made things worse. Sure, you did ultimately prevent it from happening, but you could have prevented even more. So my mother was cooperating with you? Don't ever forget, no matter how far away from you she was, she never stopped thinking about you. She was always... That's why. I knew she would do anything to protect you. If you want to know how strong her resolve to protect you was, look at her staff. Her staff? The one with the sword in it? The day the plan was to be carried out arrived soon enough. We met for the first time at Hazakura Temple. That's when your mother showed me her special staff. I realized it then, just how far she was willing to go. But this seemed so unnecessary. She was ready to use that sword to protect you from Morgan Fay if necessary. Yes, even if it meant paying the ultimate price. The ultimate price? If the plan went the way you wanted it to, then you would have ended up just killing Pearl. Mother. That night, the night of the crime, there was just one way to stop Morgan's evil plan. Alerting people ahead of time so that they could have stopped this entire thing from happening in the first place. I mean, obviously, all I would have to do is alert Maya to this fact, and she would have just not gone to the temple. Ba-dum-bum. You mean Pearls, don't you? We had to make sure she didn't channel Dahlia Hawthorne. Well, Pearl, what are you gonna do tonight? Well, I'm gonna read. Perhaps we could read books together, such of that nature. We thought we could prevent her from playing her part in Morgan's plan, but she never showed up. She was worried and followed me to the inner temple. That was the thing we were most afraid of, and that's why Misty Fae had to do the channeling herself. She channeled Dahlia Hawthorne into her own body. What do you mean? If she channeled the spirit first, then Pearls wouldn't be able to do it herself. As Master of Kurain, Misty Fae's power was supreme. So that's how it went down. She channeled Dahlia Hawthorne so that Pearl Fae wouldn't be able to. What? Is this true? My role in the plan was to make sure no one was going to hurt Maya Fae. That's why I hid myself at the inner temple, just in case you needed to be saved from Dahlia Hawthorne. Godot. Anyway, that's all I'm going to admit to, trait. Huh? There's no doubt about it. You're a great defense attorney. Okay, didn't think you'd ever say that. But you're gonna have to do the rest yourself. What do you mean the rest? You admitted to everything. The background leading up to the incident has been laid bare. There's just one question remaining, Mr. Wright. Who killed the victim? There are only two possible suspects right now. Maya Fae, and I'm sad to say, you, Diego Armando. Because why would we call you Godot at this point? Consume! Well, Trite, if you're the real deal, then finish this thing once and for all. Show us beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can finish this on your own. No, Nick, please don't. Maya, at this point, it's either he goes or you, and I'm not letting you go. I heard the whole thing from my sister in the medical office. That's why I have to protect Mr. Godot. I can't do it. I can't testify against him. After all, he's the man who put his life on the line to protect Mia, and me too. Maya, I know that. Nick. But even so, it doesn't absolve him of his crime. Please, Maya, testify. It's just what needs to be done. Besides, like I said before, I feel like this is what Godot wants. He wants me to prove it. Otherwise, why would he have kept the trial going? Why would he have force-fed me so many clues and information up to this point? Miss Faye, your testimony, please. This is the final testimony. Don't bother trying to hide anything, because I'll know. I want to hear the truth from your own lips. I understand. I'm sure you're right. I'm ready now, Nick. All right, young lady. Tell us about the moments before you lost consciousness. What exactly happened at the time of the murder? Here we go. We're gonna make this happen, I suppose. Just before it happened, I think I saw some red lights. 3 of them. I thought I'd ask for help, but just then I was splattered with blood. She wasn't dead, though, and she struck back at the enemy behind her. Suddenly, the red lights went out and the whole area went dark. Just at that moment, there was a horrible scream. Right after that, Dahlia collapsed and I lost consciousness. These red lights. I thought you said you don't remember seeing them. I'm sorry. I thought I saw them, but then they disappeared all of a sudden. Things break, traits, even the best of theories. Who was it that stabbed Misty Faye? Looks like you still can't prove it. Maya is telling the truth this time. I know it. The rest is up to me. And, just like before, there's only one thing that seems worth pointing out. Proceed with the final cross-examination of the witness. Okay, there's something I want to specifically talk about. Because there's only one piece of information left that we haven't used for anything, and that would be this dagger. So obviously it's got to play a role in things. I thought, but that's when I was splattered with blood. She wasn't dead, and she struck back at the enemy behind her. Suddenly the red lights went out and the whole area was dark. That must mean that Godot got attacked. And if he did, let's see. Which one of these things would work the best for that? Okay, let's go with this. This is what I'm most interested in. What do you mean by just at that moment? Do you mean the moment when the red lights went out? Yeah, that's right. The scream that you heard then, was it Dahlia Hawthorne? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it was a man's voice. Oh, what? Oh my god, it was a man's voice. Oh, it's a man. So then that scream came from the killer. That's the theory. That's gotta be it. I think Dahlia Hawthorne must have taken the blade and attacked the killer with it. And then the killer let out a scream of pain, huh? After that, the killer stole the blade back and delivered the final blow, I guess. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems to make sense to me. It sounds like a reasonable deduction, but I still kind of wonder. I'm pretty sure there's a contradiction. I believe. I'm gonna say there is. I'm going with my gut on all cylinders. I'm sorry to say this, but the interpretation would create an enormous contradiction. That makes sense. After all, my deductions are almost certainly never correct. Wow, thanks, Judge. Remember the testimony she just gave before the killer let out a scream? Maya said she had already been splattered by the victim's blood. And I don't think the sword was ever taken. Yeah, though, the sword was never taken out. Yeah, that would be why. In other words, the blade of the staff had already been plunged into the victim, and it was kept inside in order to prevent the blood. Is that right? She couldn't have struck back with a sword that was already stuck in her body unless she did some sort of freaky Tekken flip. The weapon that caused the killer to let out a scream must have been something other than the staff. Sound reasoning? Come on now. If you're so sure about that, then don't keep us waiting any longer, Trite. There's only one thing I can think of. That could have been used as the murder weapon here. Or, not the murder weapon. If Dahlia Hawthorne had been stabbed in the back by the staff, what could she have used to strike back at the killer? The only other bloody, bladed object we can find. Naturally, the dagger the killer brought to the scene of the crime. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. This dagger was found at the crime scene, stuck into a pine tree. Sure. Yes, the detective found that this morning and brought it to me. Dahlia Hawthorne struck back the killer with this. And she managed to wound him as well.
Objection.
Just because he let out a scream doesn't mean that he was wounded. For all we know, the blood on the dagger could have been from the victim. Objection! We just got the analysis back earlier in the court. Earlier in the trial. Have you forgotten that the blood has already been tested? The one thing we know for sure is that it isn't. Since we learned it wasn't the victim's blood, it must be the killer's blood. The killer must have a wound somewhere on his body. So you're saying the blood of this dagger belongs to the killer? Exactly! A DNA analysis of the blood would prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. And yes, Mr. Godot, it would prove that it's your blood. Nice theory, trite. You call it a theory, but it's merely factual. Order in the court. Is this the end? Have I done it? No, he's too much of a cucumber for that. Even he wouldn't be able to change the results of a scientific test. Let me ask you something, trite. Let's just say that it turned out that I was the killer. Do you really think I would be stupid enough to leave evidence like that? What? Just think for a second. This dagger was found this morning by a detective and brought to me. There was already blood on it, correct? But even so, I was the one who brought this dagger here to the courtroom. Yes, what does that prove? Well, if I really were the killer, then I could have washed the blade off and then planted another person's blood on it. That's... can't be! In any case, there's one thing I can guarantee, Trite. That blood, it doesn't belong to me. Not a chance! That doesn't make any sense! In any event, it seems to be established that the killer was wounded. All right then, witness, continue your testimonial. Hello. Wait a minute. What's the problem? I know I probably shouldn't say this, but there's a big contradiction in Nick's explanation. Maya! This dagger, you said that it wounded the killer. Yeah, that's right. But, if Mr. Godot had really been cut with a dagger, his clothes should be bloody or have a rip in them, right? Unless he changed his clothes? Maya, maybe he just changed his clothes? That'd solve the contradiction pretty easily. What are you talking about? It's not that simple at all. Remember back to the day of the murder? Everyone that was on the Inner Temple side got trapped there. Oh, that's right. And once the bridge was fixed and the police headed for the Inner Temple, Mr. Godot was already there waiting for them. He never had a chance to change his clothes. Knock! Well, what if he wasn't hit and somewhere where his clothes would be? Well, maybe he brought a change of clothes with him. But no one could have predicted the lightning strike that shut down the bridge. Why would anyone have brought a change of clothes? Did the judge take smart pills during the last recess? It's because it's such an important trial and it's the end of the game. Obviously, he's not gonna let silly stuff slide. Well, then maybe the killer took off his clothes before he committed the murder. That way he wouldn't get blood on him. Are you implying he killed her naked? That's impossible, Trite. You know how cold it gets up there late at night. After a few minutes with no clothes on, you'd be frozen solid. Nah! But what if he just got attacked somewhere else? So that's all you've got? I knew you weren't tough enough to finish this. Right now, if Mia Fey were here, she would have closed the book on this case already. If Mia Fey were here. So come on, Trite, can you do it or not? How about it, Mr. Wright? You've accused Mr. Godot of being the killer, but can you prove it? Have you got even one piece of evidence? The question isn't whether I can prove it or not. The fact is I have to prove it. That's the only choice I have. I was taught that it's one of the rules of being a lawyer. I can prove it. I'm going to bring your magnificent vengeance to fruition, just as you wanted, and oh my god, the music! They brought it back! Ah! better than any of the other versions of this song. They brought it back. I'm so happy. That's good. A fighter till the bitter end, right? Since there's just one piece of evidence that can prove your point, why don't we go for the unlimited penalty? Oh, is that how we're gonna play it? Dude, with this music playing, I can't be stopped. I've got all I need. Are you trying to pressure me, Mr. Godot? Because it doesn't matter to me. I've got the one piece of evidence I need. All I need. Boom! I was just quoting him in the Marvel game. Give me a break. You've got nothing, trite. So what do I do at a time like this? It's simple. I've got to think outside the box and approach this from a different angle. All right then, Mr. Wright, let's hear what you've got. There's one thing I've demonstrated in the previous cross-examination. The killer was wounded. That was proven by the blood on the dagger. But we decided it was impossible for him to have hidden such a wound. If he had been cut by a dagger, there should have been a blood stain on his clothing. Not necessarily. There's one place. One place the killer could have hidden his wound. What did you say? Hidden? Come on, people! It's the most obvious place possible. This is it. My last stand. I need to think about this from a different angle. I don't need to think about why there was no bloodstains on his clothing. I need to show how he hid the wound. It's the end of the line. The final stop, trite. Let's hear what you've got. What's the location? Where's the location where the killer could hit his wound? I don't... Your face? Is that how I point that out? I don't know what you're talking about. And frankly, I don't need to know. Was that not it? Oh, crap. What I do know is that you'll never be half the lawyer she was. Isn't that right, trite? Whoa! What was that just now? Mia? It can't be. You're living on through him? You better believe it, Godot. Even as we speak, you're still hiding the wound. It's beneath your mask! During the fight, the red lights given off by the killer suddenly disappeared. Seconds later, the killer let out a scream. That's right, your mask went flying off your face. Mr. Godot, would you mind removing your mask? If you have a dagger wound under there somewhere, then I'd say this whole case is solved. Whoa! Is he okay? His face seemed to have exploded. Oh, okay, he's okay, I guess. Who's throwing those things? Just now, I saw her spirit in you. I never liked you. Yeah, clearly. 6 years ago, you helped the woman who put me to sleep by hiding her bottle of poison. Not on purpose. And then, while I was sleeping, you let Mia die. But you didn't care. You just kept living your pathetic, happy-go-lucky life. You even had the nerve to follow in her footsteps as a lawyer. I could never forgive you. That's what I thought. Mr. Godot. But I was wrong about you. I knew it from the very beginning. Really? The truth is, the only person I could never find it in my heart to forgive was yourself. Was me. Yourself? I was the one that failed to protect Mia. Me and no one else. I tried to avert my eyes from the truth, to escape from the harshness of reality. I just couldn't face Mia's death head on, so I ran. I hid behind a mask. I threw away my true name. I couldn't even deal with being a defense attorney anymore, so I quit. But, you saved Maya. Yeah, that was my plan. Up until just now, anyway. What do you mean? Are you listening, Maya? If I had really wanted to save you, then there's one person that I should have gone and talked to right away. Who would that be? Are you talking about Nick? But I didn't do it. Okay, so we are addressing the fact that he could have just prevented the whole thing from happening. I tried to get the help of Iris and your mother, but I closed my eyes to the most important man involved. Do you know why? The real reason? No, why? I suppose I wasn't really interested in saving you at all. Huh? I think I was just trying to salvage what's left of my own broken soul. I was trying to make up for the fact that I couldn't save Mia. Nothing more. That's why I let you walk right into a situation that I knew was dangerous. Forgive me. You're wrong. You put your life on the line to save Maya. Technically. Man, it's such a weird situation. Was it really for Maya's sake? Even I'm not really sure. Because he did, but he could have done more. But he still did. I've never had a murderer give me so much conflicting emotions. What do you mean by that? That night, in the darkness of the garden, when I saw her silhouette, a part of me must have known the truth. The truth that it wasn't really Dahlia Hawthorne standing there in front of me. It could have been Misty Faye, or even that little girl. But I still picked up the blade. It was like I was dreaming. He still murdered, and he could have even possibly murdered Pearl. I'm not sure exactly what was going on in my mind at that point. Was I really motivated by the pure desire to protect Maya Faye? Or was it something else? Was it my hatred for a woman who had stolen everything from me 6 years ago? Could it have been simply a desire for revenge? And now, I don't know anything anymore. I mean, it could theoretically be both. There's nothing saying it has to be one or the other. I did learn something today, however. I finally realized that I was the arrogant one. Well, frankly, it took you long enough. I was just chasing an illusion, a fantasy. The stupid fantasy of defeating you in the courtroom. You were the one who made me realize my folly. You never ran away from Mia's death. Instead, you picked up where she left off, as a true defender of the people. In that one moment, I understood everything. Mr. Godot. I think you already know this, but if you don't, my name is Diego Armando. Mr. Armando, I believe in you. I know you were trying to save me. Ah! Thanks. Your wound, it's bleeding. Did you forget already? In my world, the color red doesn't exist. I guess that would explain why his shirt color changed. These must be my tears. Tears? Ever since I woke up from my coma, I think I've been waiting for this very moment. Mr. Armando. You do well to remember this, Maya. The only time a lawyer can cry is when it's all over. Jesus. This time, it really is all over, isn't it? Defendant? Yes, Your Honor? Although you weren't directly involved in the murder, tampering with the body in the crime scene is a serious offense in itself. I understand, Your Honor. Mr. Armando explained that to me very carefully. I knew the risk and I willingly cooperated anyway. Very well. Before I hand down my verdict, is there anything you'd like to say? Well, there is one thing. I'd like to say something to Mr. Wright. I want to apologize to you. Apologize? To me? For what? For the case 5 years ago, of course. I think my theory might have been right. I just remembered. Weren't you poisoned by your own lover? Not exactly, but yeah, something like that. The details aren't really important. We can ignore those. Even now, 5 years later, I can hardly believe it. She was going to do it. She was planning to kill me. She almost did. It's not all that surprising. The two of you hardly knew each other. Huh? What do you mean? You and my sister, you only met twice. Huh? We only met twice? The first time you met was on that fateful day. The day she poisoned Mr. Armando in the cafeteria of this very courthouse. The next time you met her was 8 months later. Then I was right. That's how it's all connected, and why you feel like you betrayed him and all that other stuff. Those 8 months of dating? Completely different person. You met her again on the day that she stole your cult medicine. And Doug Swallow was killed. No way! It can't be true. I mean, during our whole relationship, we were... For those 8 months, the woman that you thought was Dahlia Hawthorne wasn't actually my sister. That's why... It was even alluded to way back then, during the case. Phoenix said that he thought it was somebody else. It didn't seem like it was her. That's because it wasn't. I hope one day you can forgive me, Feeny. You mean... That's right. I lied to you for 8 months. Oh, this is some soap opera stuff, whoa. But why? Why would you do such a thing? Ever since she gave you the bottle that day, my sister was trying to get it back as soon as she possibly could. Because of the police investigation and their surveillance, she couldn't move about freely. So that's why you... My sister, from the beginning, she was prepared for the worst. Prepared for the worst? She thought that you might somehow discover the truth. That's why she was always ready to deal with you at a moment's notice. You mean she was ready to kill me, don't you? She already had so much to answer for. I didn't want any more sins on her soul. I begged her not to do it. She agreed to give me a chance. And that's why you came to me? You came to get the bottle pendant back from me in her place. But I couldn't get you to give it back. I failed at something even as simple as that. 8 months passed and I still couldn't get it back from you. Finally, my sister couldn't wait any longer. She didn't consult me about her plans for you that day. It was the first time that it had ever happened. It was a bit strange, wasn't it? Up until that day, you two were partners in crime, and she would confer with you. I think she must have noticed. What, notice what? Come on, Phoenix, you're not that dim. My feelings for you. If I had found out she was planning to kill you, I would have done whatever was necessary to stop her. Even if it meant her life. Or mine. Wow. Iris. After spending those 8 months by your side, my feelings towards you, they changed. I have something to say to you, too. Yes? You really are the person I always thought you were. Oh! Oh, that's sickeningly sweet. Even after Dahlia Hawthorne was found guilty, I still believed in you. Okay. Oh, that made something well in my right eye. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Don't go there, brain. We're not, well, nope. They just said, can't cry till it's over. That's what we're learning today. How many cups of darkness have I drank over the years? Even I don't know. I'll tell you though, right now, this one here is the greatest cup I think I've ever had. Don't you think so? Phoenix, right? Oh God, you said my name right. Oh my God. Yeah, I think you're right. The purpose of this trial was to rule on the murder of the victim, Elise Denim. At some point, I expect you will be tried for your role as an accomplice in this case. I understand, Your Honor. Very well. On the charge of murder, I hereby find the defendant. Court is now adjourned. Keep it together. Keep it together, Trades. Keep it together. So I guess it's all over. The way everything ended, was justice really served? The man who risked his life to save Maya is being sent to prison by my own hand. Of course justice was served. Hi, Mia. I'm proud of you, Phoenix. Your defense was truly brilliant. But I couldn't save Mr. Armando, the man who cared so deeply for you. You're wrong, Phoenix. You did save Diego. You saved him in the only way possible. You mean, with that verdict? I think one day, you'll understand too. Phoenix, I want you to remember one thing. You were as good out there today as any defense attorney could ever hope to be. Ah! God damn it, I'm choking up. Stop it. There's nothing more you can learn from me. Mia, you've accomplished something I wasn't able to. I owe you a great deal. Thank you. You're welcome. Mia, I'm sure we'll meet again someday, Phoenix. I've handled lots of cases and seen a lot of things. And along this journey, I found myself asking just one question. What does it really mean to defend people? I suppose today's case produced one possible answer. Nick. Maya. I guess it's just like my sis said. Mia? What did she say? That night, when I channeled Mia to get her advice on what to do, this is what she wrote back in my notebook. Don't worry, Phoenix will save everyone in the end. But, come on, cut it out with that gloomy face. Can't you see? Me, sis, and I'm sure Iris too. We owe you for everything you've done for us, Nick. Maya, how can you be so bright and chipper after all that's happened? You were brutally attacked. You even saw your mother murdered. Ah! Hi, Franny. Still as softy as always, Phoenix, right? Edgeworth. Excellent work, right? Mr. Edgeworth, when did you get back? Oh, that's right. I guess no one filled her in on that. Edgeworth and Francisca have actually been helping me. Helping you? Yeah, actually, they're kind of the sole reason any of this was even possible, so, thank the hell out of them, why don't you? If these two hadn't been here on the first day of the trial, the defense wouldn't have gotten anywhere. Wow. But where were you, Nick? I heard he fell into a river and caught a nasty cold, which forced him to sleep all day. Yes, he laid in bed shivering from his fever when Iris's hood pulled over his head. Oh, ouch. Talk about embarrassing, Nick. You definitely need more training. I love the fact that they omit the fact that I, did it because I ran across a burning bridge trying to save you. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. And you too, Francisca. I don't suppose... There's room for me in this group hug, is there? Oh, Larry. What's with the, longer than usual face? I realized something when I was reborn. I realized that Larry was never of any use to anyone. Not even once. That's not true, right, Nick? What, you're asking me? Well, Nick, is it true? I've got a place in this world, right? Oh, yeah, of course. I knew it. Everyone would be better off if I were gone for good. No. Oh, yeah. Those portraits you painted, they were really good. Isn't that right, Edgeworth? What? Me? What are you making that face? Huh, Edgy? Oh, well, yes, indeed. I certainly can't say that they lack resemblance. Do you really mean it? What about you, Francie? Did I draw you well, too? And thus, the moment of truth. Ah! My beauty cannot possibly be captured by a mere crayon. Nevertheless, I recognize the effort you put into it, and that's worth something. Well, there you go, that's something. Larry, you got a compliment out of her, you really shouldn't be... Yeah, okay, see, that's kind of a... Don't get carried away. That's exactly what I was saying. Well, how about that? I guess painting portraits is the only thing I'm good at. The painting of Pearl was pretty darn good too, if you ask me. Huh? Now that you mention it, I haven't seen her around. Pearls. Where could she have gone? Normally she would have made a beeline for Maya. Oh, I'll go look for her. Be right back. Hey, Pearly. Right. You seem to be uncharacteristically puzzled. I suspect you're wondering how Maya can be so cheerful despite all that's happened. Yeah. To be honest, I can't understand it either. Francisca. That's right. She lost her father fairly recently as well. I think I understand how she feels. Everyone in this room has suffered from this kind of thing. Look, I guess maybe not Phoenix, and I don't know anything about Larry, but the point is a good chunk of the people here know. Maya's a much wiser person than she appears, and I think she realizes something. Now is exactly the time when she needs to be as strong as she can. What do you mean by now is exactly the time? Maya wasn't the only one that was badly wounded by this incident. In fact, there was someone that was hurt far more deeply than she. And I believe it's for that person that Maya is trying her best not to cry. Pearl. Edgeworth. I think I'm starting to understand too. Ow! But tell me, Phoenix Wright, who is Maya Fey being strong for? Well, obviously you, Franny. No. Pearl Fey. The poor kid. After all, the reason that she worked so hard to follow the instructions was because she loved and believed in her mother, Morgan, who ultimately didn't care about her in the slightest and just wanted to grab for power and took it by choosing to live vicariously through her offspring. Which is really messed up. For good of the Fey clan, I'm sure she believed in every last word. She thought she was doing it for Maya. That's why she was so happy. Aw, don't show me this cuteness. I only just got past being able to not cry a moment ago. Don't do this. It shows how truly devoted she is to Maya. But it's a cruel irony that it was her exuberance that led to this tragedy. Maya Fey's mother was killed, and Maya herself is put into the deepest peril imaginable. And that's exactly why Maya is putting on a brave face. She's doing it for Pearl's sake, until she can see her smile again. Gumshoe! Oh, hey, so this is where you all were. Wow, looks like we got quite the bunch here today. Ow! What was that for, sir? Sorry about that, Scruffy. My whip just seems to have a mind of its own. What's up, Detective Gumshoe? Oh, you know, this and that. Anyway, congrats on your win. Let's go out tonight, pal. Dinner's on me. Gumshoe, you can't afford it. My salary's just sort of kind of gone down by a teeny bit, but it's all right. I made reservations at a first-class restaurant tonight. Oh, no. Ah! Pretty good work, Scruffy. That whip was your reward. Detective Gumshoe. Oh, sorry, I thought that was her. You said a first-class French restaurant. You don't mean... Très bien. Where else? I knew it. We're doomed. Come on, let's go, everyone. Can't keep Maggie waiting, pal. Hey, yo, Crybaby. You're invited, too. Oh, forget about me. Pearl and I will be at the loser's shack eating potatoes. You know, Maya's taking an awfully long time to get back. She's still out looking for pearls. Couldn't find her, I guess. What's wrong? Nick, what do I do? Pearly, I can't find her anywhere. Huh? I'll bet she just went back home. That's all. I thought so too, so I called the village. But no one has heard from her. This has never happened before. As I figured, she had been badly hurt by this incident. She feels responsible for the tragedy that has befallen you, Maya. But none of this was her fault. What should I do? Detective Gumshoe? Yeah, what is it, pal? Could you guys go on ahead? But what about you? Maya and I we'll join you guys once we find pearls. Nick. Don't worry about us, Detective Gumshoe. We may be a little late, but we'll definitely be there. We have a lot of celebrating to do tonight, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. Yeah, but you're the... Okay! Very well, Phoenix Wright. We'll go on ahead. Don't keep us waiting, right? We won't. But where should we look? Where could Pearlie have gone? Let's go, Maya. There's only one place I can think of the pearls might have gone to. Makes about as much sense as it could. Hazakura Temple. For pearls, I bet this is a very important place. After all, it's where this whole incident started. What's this? You're all back again so soon? Hey, we did get to see you again, Sister Bikini. I thought we'd be eating mashed potatoes alone tonight. So she's here? Pearlie is here? Oh man, I freaking love mashed potatoes. She's in the training hall. Why don't you hurry along and go see her? Okay. And thus we did. Pearlie's not here. Ah, Maya, the hanging scroll. Ah, it's been cleaned. Somehow, someone cleaned it off. It's gotta be pearls. Ah, Mystic Maya. Pearlie, why? Why did you just leave like that? Mystic Maya. Mystic Maya. Aw. You poor goober child. I swore that I would never trouble the two of you ever again. Because it's all my fault that Mystic Maya's mother. That's why you came here? It's the least I could do, to pray for your happiness. You don't have to do that, Pearlie. It wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Of course I'm sad that my mother is gone, but how do I say this? I'm still happy. You don't have to lie just to make me feel better. No, really. It's true. The only reason I'm still here at all is thanks to everyone who was there before me. My sis, my mother, Mr. Armando, Nick, and you. If even one of you weren't there, I'm sure I wouldn't still be alive right now. That's why I have to be strong. For all the people that were there for me when I needed them. That's all I can really do. Mystic Maya, I'm impressed. You truly are the daughter of Mystic Misty. Sister Bikini, your mother, Mystic Misty, was a strong woman indeed. I want to tell you what she said to me that night. After dishonoring the good name of Kurain, I don't have the right to face my daughter. But still, Maya is always in my thoughts. It's true, she'll always be with me until the day I die. Your spirit was with her. That's why your mother was so strong. Even at the end, I'm sure she had no regrets. She'll always be with me until the day I die, huh? There's a rule or something all masters are to follow, isn't there? To never take the charm off until the day you die. That's the master's talisman. The thing that Misty kept by her heart and would never take off. It wasn't the container that was important. Rather, it was the contents. It's a container? That thing opens? That's... a photo? Ah! Mother. You can't leave me hanging. It's only natural for living creatures to fight to protect their own lives. But what makes us human is that we fight for others. But who do we fight for? How hard must you fight? That's the true measure of what human life is worth. We defense attorneys are warriors who are constantly challenged by that question. Oh no, that's too cute. Oh, that's too cute. Even when the battle is over and the bonds that connect us are severed, we always return, time and time again. Mia, Maya, Pearls, Mr. Armando, and Maya's mother too. I learned that from all of them. Okay. Well, shall we get going? Everyone is waiting. Ah. This is a day to remember. A day when a lot of things were finally put to rest. And I think we should celebrate what we've overcome today. But I still can't. Oh, go on, sweetie. You can come back for training anytime. Okay. All right. I'm gonna make a brand new start too. Sister Bikini, I'll be back for more training, I promise. I know, and I won't go easy on you just because you're the future master. I'll make sure to prepare reservations for three when you come back. Wow! All right, we're gonna have a great feast today, Pearly. You know why? Because training is a battle of endurance. Okay, Mystic Maya, I'll eat lots and lots of food tonight. You know, there's one thing I don't get, and probably don't want to, but what is it, Nick? Reservations for training is fine and all, but why for 3? Come on, what do you think? You're one of us, Nick. Next time you can train right alongside us. I'll be waiting for you. Sister Bikini will take special care of you. What? It'll be great, Nick. We're gonna do the special course naturally. That's a great idea. After all, Mr. Nick, you'd do anything for Mystic Maya, wouldn't you? Even walk on hot coals, right? Or run across a burning bridge, whatever comes first. We'll have a nice big meal before we come next time, right, Nick? You know, I was wondering if I could say just one little thing. Sure, of course you can. Oh, I love this part. I can't wait to hear it. I'm getting goosebumps too. Well then, here goes nothing. Oh, I freaking love this series so much. I really have to work extra hard now. Master of Kurain and the office manager of Wright and Cola offices. And I have to be a good big sister to Pearly and Nick too. Well, as long as I'm not locked up or captured or something like that. As is fairly normal. I understand that this is basically the end of what's considered the trilogy. I've been told that this series was actually going to end here and not continue. So it's true. Mr. Nick really is Mystic Maya's knight in shining armor. He went through with the special course all the way to the end. Oh my god, he did it. Actually, I heard there's a legendary extra special ultra course too. I think I'll surprise the two of them by making them a secret reservation. But yeah, apparently this was going to be the end of the series entirely before someone decided, no, just keep going. And you know what? I can understand why the series would end here, but I'm also really glad to hear that it did. Maggie bought me a brand new coat as a present, pal. I feel 10 years younger. I'll never take it off. Yes, but somehow you just don't seem the same. I guess a dirty, shabby old overcoat is just more detective-like, sir. Don't worry about it. In the name of love, a man will soil himself silk. God damn it, I love this series so much. Well, you guys asked for it. This was the 100th Let's Play. I sincerely hope I was able to make it worth the hype. Mr. Wright, I am once again in your debt. Thanks to you, the Treasures of Kurain exhibit was a great success. I even got to see Miss Vinkarma, who I hadn't seen for almost a year. She taught me how to use a whip and said that I must show you what I've learned. Please don't. I worked really hard to try and make this a good series, and I hope it shows. Believe it or not, I care a lot about what you guys think and whether or not you enjoy anything I do. Desi and I started a company called where we've dedicated to stopping the evil plans of all the criminals in the city. Our motto is cut it out, please. Pretty cute, huh? Well, we also sell plans to the criminals as a kind of side business. I wonder if that's okay. Sometimes I think maybe we're the worst criminals. But yeah, I super duper ultra care about you guys and entertaining you properly, and I hope that this worked and it felt great and it was worth the wait and everything is good. I wanted to show you my appreciation to Mr. Wright for exterminating Don Tigre, so I lent him $500,000 and a tea set. A special thick tea, one I mixed with my own 2 hands. I bet he's drinking it now. Win through compromise. Heh, heh, heh. Oh, you creepy, creepy lady. I'm so glad that this isn't going to be the end of the series. I hear there's at least about 4, maybe 5 games more. I'm just an old and in the way, a wrinkly, grumpy clown nose waste of flesh. At least that's what I thought. But my grandkids had a birthday party for me the other day. Talk about embarrassing. 69 years old and I cried like a baby with a dirty diaper. Sometimes, hey, babies aren't the only ones wearing diapers. I really don't know what else to say, guys. Wow, really? Even her? As usual, we have an abundance of work to do. We've hired a new programmer to replace Glenn Elg. I do hope everyone will get along. His name is Adam Mata. Everything has to be an anagram. As soon as I heard his name, I knew our brain circuits would align perfectly. Just keep going, game. My. More reporters? Since the murder, we've made so much money, I hardly know what to do. I think the magazines like us provide such a nice visual, especially in spring. I can hardly wait for Iris to come back. Wah-ha-ha-ho-ho-ho. I don't know when I'm going to be opening up the next chapter in this series. Apparently the next one is Apollo Justice, but I guess chronologically it's actually a Miles Edgeworth spin-off. I'm not sure which one I'm going with first. We'll figure it out, though. You've turned into such a respectable man, Feeney. It was so sweet of you and everyone else to come and visit me here the other day. Of course, I was happy that you constantly had your eyes on me, but I felt kind of bad when the little one slapped you so hard you got a nosebleed. Because of course. I think I've done enough talking. You guys know how I feel. We're obviously not done with this franchise. We will return to it someday, hopefully someday soon. I'd actually like to do it sooner than later. Just know that the memories that this series has created are something I'm going to be carrying with me my entire life. Oh, the game dimmed! I hadn't touched the controller in so long. And for the last time, I truly hope that I managed to make this whole thing worth it for you guys, and that you enjoyed it. Don't throw that! And that, ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between, was Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Trials and Tribulations. A wonderful game for a wonderful series. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I'll see you all soon for a brand new Let's Play. If you've been paying attention, I think you know what it'll be. And oh my god, Wendy! Too bad for her, I already finished my outro. So I'll see you all next time. Bye! I doubt it. That cuts too deep. Oh, that's just freaking beautiful. How do I get a printout of that hung on my wall?